This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. It's 6:30 p.m. and we are going to stand for the pledge if you'll join us in that. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have our deputy clerk tonight taking the position of our regular clerk, Ratari, who's absent and excused. So if you'll be so kind to take the role, I'd appreciate it.
Linda Rand.
Here.
Bernie Johnson.
Here.
Dave Wiegand.
Here.
Dan Everson.
Here.
John Marks.
Present.
Pete LaRue.
Absent. And everybody else is accounted for. Randy. Okay, thanks for that. Oh, yeah, I've got that's why I grabbed my phone. I needed to get his cell number. Trustee LaRue is absent and excused. So he would like, I gotta do a 9 first. He would like to listen in. He will not be able to vote. He's just listening and he can participate in the discussion.
Hello.
Hello, Pete. You are on the phone.
All right, thank you very much.
If you know where your mute button is, though, if you can push that, just in case you have other stuff going on in your background, we'd appreciate
No, I
it.
don't have nothing like that. I'm in the computer room, so
Oh, okay.
I'll hit the mute button.
Okay, but if you want to say anything, feel free to, ask a question or something. You just can't vote.
You would have to take the mute
All right,
off.
thank you.
Yeah, you just have to take mute off to talk.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we just did the pledge, and there's no public for comment.
All right, then. Have a good meeting.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.
All right, then I need a motion for the consent agenda. No, let me back up, because we've got a, I can read that. We have a budget amendment. It's funny how you rely so much on somebody, hey? Are there any changes anybody wants to make to the consent agenda before we go any further? Okay, we can have a motion and support, and then I will,
Yes.
Linda can do a roll call.
Move to accept the consent agenda as printed. Support. All right, this is Budget Amendment 2019-12. And it says, authorization is requested to reclassify revenues and expenditures in several funds. The general fund will realize increased revenue with the transfer from the DDA fund, which is Downtown Development Authority Fund, for the street lighting project. General fund expenditure increases are requested for the Capital Department computer equipment for 6 new PCs, computers, and building and grounds generator. The manager department will require an increase due to a year-end vacation payout and the 2019 bonus and associated payroll costs. Contracted services will require less funding than originally estimated. The fire fund will also purchase new computers for $6,000 in addition to the fire marshal department for the wage increases as well as the bonus. The offsets will come from vehicles, repair and maintenance, and administration, ambulance billing, and contracted services. The wastewater fund revenue will increase by $8,000 due to the asset management proceeds from the state of Michigan of $61,000, offset by lower than projected other revenues of $53,000. The administration department and contracted services will increase by $25,000, mainly for the SAW grant work. Decreases are split between lower than estimated repair and maintenance work in the wastewater, meter, interceptor, and collector systems departments. So we need a roll call on that. I could let you read that, Linda.
So someone made
I
a,
did.
just help me, you made a motion,
I approve, yes.
the
To
motion
accept
to
the
accept the
consent
consent
agenda.
agenda, and it was seconded. Do we vote on that?
Yes, we need, because there's a budget resolution in there, we need a roll call vote.
Okay. Bernie,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dave? Lynn?
Yes. So we have 5 yeses and 2 absents. All right, then I just need approval of the rest of the agenda, unless there are any changes. Anybody?
I move to accept the agenda as printed.
Support.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. That done and that done. Any conflicts of interest? I'm not aware of any, just in case, with anything we're going to talk about. All right, staff reports for tonight. You did receive, I had one on my desk, so I'm guessing it was in your mailboxes from the fire chief, because it wasn't part of the, regular part of the packet. There were a couple things I was going to point out. Membership is at 31. We have 27 active and 4 on leave. North Star Academy had a fire drill. That must have been fun. Would have been nice to ask Dan about that. And Mike Gregorich attended a grant writing class at Northern, so I'm sure that'll be awfully beneficial. I know he's done some grants in the past for the fire department. Those are just kind of the highlights I picked up.
I was gonna say, Mike does an outstanding job with the grant
Yeah,
writing.
yeah. I've gotten some really good stuff from him. So that'll be, now there's even more demand to figure he's gonna do better.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed the incidents for November. We had 38 calls, up from 34 last year at this time in November. 2 fires, basically, 22 EMS calls, 3 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, a natural gas or LPG leak of some kind, 5 power lines down. We know that happened during the last 2 storms, or the 2 prior storms. Electrical equipment problems, vehicle, 2 accidents, smoke scare, false alarm. So just so the public knows, you know, they hear that alarm go off, not all the time. A lot of them are at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If you look at your alarm analysis, there might be 9 o'clock. So just so the public knows that what's happening in the township, they hear the alarm, they don't really know what's going on.
And the alarm just goes at certain hours, from 9 in the morning till.
Pretty much 9 at night, yeah. Once in a while, it'll go later than that.
So if they're not hearing it, that doesn't mean they're not responding to something.
Right. Anything from you, Randy? Did Dan give you any?
Just
Different?
just a quick, Chief Shanahan's not here this evening because he was out of town the last 2 weeks in training, and they have a rescheduled meeting going on at the same time that was supposed to have been last week. So that's where he is at. That's the reason he's not here. I did authorize him to be able to do that, and if there's any questions the board members have, either myself or Trustee Everson can address those for you. But yeah, it's been busy. You know, and I guess that's the point. If you do hear that siren go off after 9 o'clock at night, it's because it's a backup. It's more people are needed for something, whether it's a fire or some kind of a major event.
We've gotten called on quite a few lately, haven't we, to support the city and Chocolate,
Several
Sands.
mutual aid, yeah,
So that's good.
it is.
Sometimes it's the ambulance, sometimes it's the fire department. That's the whole idea, is to help everybody.
Worked out wonderful.
Yeah, and just as kind of an update, we are continuing to staff the weekends with scheduled on-call. So we've not entered that spot yet where we're adding a full-time position. We have not needed to as yet, and we're keeping an eye on that. So as we go into 2020, We have budgeted for that for 2020, and we'll see how this works as we continue to go into the late winter and spring. And as bad as it's been, in 4 more days, we're going towards spring again.
Oh, geez, I hope so.
21st is the turn.
You mean winter hasn't started yet?
No,
Oh, no.
until the 22nd.
21st is the turn.
At least we don't live in Ontonagon.
Yeah. At least we can see that it's light out.
All right, if nothing else on fire department, how about public works? Do we have anything new? We heard from,
Yep, John is here.
yeah,
I really only have one comment to add to what we have on the agenda, and that is regarding the discussion you just had regarding the siren. It's actually turned off currently because we had a cell company representative on site today looking at some of their equipment, and we turn that off, like to turn that off when they are on site to avoid any hearing damage, that kind of thing, because it is pretty loud when you're that close. So once we confirm that they're done working on site, it'll be turned back on, and we did inform the fire chief of that this morning, so just an
Is it
update on that.
gonna be like today or tomorrow, or like a week, or?
I'm hoping it's something we can turn back on tomorrow morning sometime. We just need to verify they're not coming back for a while.
Thank
I
you.
know the public gets tired of hearing it, and even my guests get panicky because they don't know if it's, you know, the world coming to an end or a tornado or what. They all get panicky. Rightly so, because in different communities it means different things, so it's kind of unnerving. So nothing else to add on the public side, Public Works? Okay.
Not at the moment, no.
Assessing, have we heard
Um,
anything from,
She's on her way back from Lansing. Had hoped to be back in time for the meeting, and she said if she did not get back, she would put the written report together for you and get it out first thing in the morning.
put it in mailboxes? Okay.
Email and mailbox.
Anything on, I don't think we've heard from Lost Creek. I talked to her
No.
last week, I
No,
think it was.
it's still in their court for response. We're still waiting for the appraisal, and for them to let us know where they're going with that. Otherwise, they have our bill.
They have until the end of the month.
2 more weeks,
Do
roughly.
something, hey.
Yeah, roughly
Then
2
what
weeks.
happens?
And it's in our court to move forward in that too, so.
Okay. And that could mean rescinding the ordinance? That's
Could
part
be
of it?
any number, any number of things.
That's
we-
what I heard at one
Yeah,
point.
probably not rescinding the ordinance, but taking other actions.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. So, attorney report, you're up next.
Well, probably the bulk of the time since the last report has been with various issues and questions surrounding the replacement of the manager, potential contract, protocol issues on interviewing, and things that may come up or may not come up in the ongoing process. So I've answered a number of questions in that, and you have an opinion that I've also issued, a supplemental opinion recently. A couple of ongoing zoning issues that we've had that keep surfacing, and not sure where those are heading, but working with the zoning administrator on those. We had one tax exemption question that came up kind of in conjunction with the Board of Review, with the December Board of Review that had to look into a bit with the assessor. Other than that, it's been a fairly quiet December.
Sounds good. Any questions for the attorney? Ron?
Not tonight, I don't want to just drop it on you, but I'd like to have a status of the lawsuit against the Planning Commission and the township regarding the short-term rental.
Okay.
If we could have that at some later date.
Actually, I can give you a brief update on that. There's a supplemental pretrial conference coming up in January. I don't have the exact date committed to memory, but it's coming up in the middle part of January sometime, and the attorneys have been having some discussion of whether there might be some room to resolve the entire action, not only with respect to the neighbor and the resident who applied for the short-term rental, but also as to the township. There was a proposal that was very recently circulated by the attorney from the homeowner who made the application, indicating that at this point, she's essentially willing to not conduct a short-term rental. And it would seem that if she's willing to withdraw that application, because she did not comply with other requirements to move forward with that anyway. There was a business license and so forth, and a couple of other things, an inspection that wasn't completed. And then there are a couple of separate issues that we're just talking about amongst the attorneys to see if it can be resolved. The ideal would be to have it completed or some type of a resolution before that pretrial conference in early to mid-January.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pete, I think your mute is off.
Tell him push his button.
Push your mute on, Pete.
Trying to find it.
Okay, next up is community linkage. I have a bunch of things I wanted to share with you. Anybody have anything that they're hearing they need to share? First of all, I had a long conversation with our district representative for the census, the 2020 census today. I asked if she could just come and speak to us, and instead of me being the middle person, and she said, no, she can't. So you're stuck with me. The three main things, and I'm just going to kind of go through these very quickly because we're going to do a little mailing on some of this for the public so that they know the importance of the census. That they have a constitutional responsibility and a right to participate in being counted. That our representation is important from a government standpoint. If you remember a few years ago, we were kind of grouped with the Lower Peninsula in our representation. I don't know how far down that goes, maybe to Gaylord or Grayling or something. So that diminishes our impact. We used to be, the UP used to be a separate representation district. And it's possible that our population changed enough that that had to happen to include us with the upper Lower Peninsula. She doesn't know, of course, but that's one of the important things that we need to remember. If we're not all being counted, that changes that representation. And she went on at length about government funding and grants and matching funds and road paving and Head Start and Meals on Wheels and the vet hospital. So I'm not going to go into all that, but I just want to let you know that it's very wide-reaching. And part of our responsibility as the municipality is to inform the public about this. So we will be doing a little bit of a mailing. It'll be in with your utility bills either in January or February. I'll give you some of those highlights. So I just wanted to touch on that. It's a little bit late now, but one of our community or our committee members was the actual student speaker at Northern's graduation last weekend. Connor Loftus is one of our committee representatives on the rec committee. And I just wanted to thank him. I didn't get a chance to last night. He was at our MSU grant meeting also last night, and I saw him there, and I thought I would catch him at the end, but I didn't. But I wanted to congratulate him. He won't be staying with us. He's going to stay on the rec committee until he has to leave, but we will need another appointment then when he resigns. So just so you know, if somebody wants to, that you know of, wants to get involved with the rec committee. But I just wanted to congratulate him on that. Speaking of last night's meeting, Michigan State's, is it SEIU? I have to stop and think. SEIS, the $30,000 grant we received for the engineering to do something in the corridor. It's kind of where we're focusing. We had about 25 people participate last night in the community room. And this is step one of maybe 3 steps or 3 meetings. The second one will probably be in April sometime.
So last night was pulling together information on what we think the corridor needs. We looked at the spotted knapweed in the median. We looked at snow plowing and grass and what if we need trees, and the fact that we had power poles all the way down, and wouldn't it be nice if those were buried? And we had a very lengthy, almost 2-hour discussion about what that looks like. So the April meeting, it's going to be March or April, they'll let us know. They're going to put some drawings together, and that's kind of what people are waiting for. That's what the group said last night. They want to see the before and afters. So if they look at commerce and the side of the highways and the lack of trails and stuff, they want to give us a perspective of what that could look like. So I'll keep you informed when that meeting is going to be, and so they'll spend the next few months putting those drawings together. And then the third meeting, maybe in August or so, will be to kind of see where we can go with this grant. This is tied in, if you remember, to the 2021 project that MDOT is doing on the resurfacing the eastbound lane of the corridor, all the way from, I think it's the Negaunee Township border to Front Street, something like that, the Negaunee Marquette Township border. So we're trying to figure out, pie in the sky, what can we do? Can we get some better trails? Can we get some offshoot trails? Can we put something different in the corridor that doesn't have to be mowed? Can we team up with the DDA and put some lighting in, or safe crossing? So this is all one huge big project, and this is actually where we started with the tunnel, you know, these basic discussions about what do we need about a straight safe crossing. So I'll keep you informed of that, and hopefully have some board members at that next meeting in April, March or April, I'll let you know, and see what we can do with that grant money, that engineering grant money. I just wanted to say a thank you to our accountant. If you remember a few months ago, I had asked that we have current financials along with the payables, and she's done an awesome job of that, and I really appreciate it. When I'm looking at the financials and then I can see how that fits in the budget, it's just so much easier, and I wanted to catch her today too, and I didn't, and thank her for that. I think it's so much easier for us to do our jobs, because prior it was a month and a half or so back, and she pulled that off and did a great job. I also had, this is the last thing, I also had a call from a resident, sorry, and she was asking about the interview process and wasn't real sure what happened and how things worked. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, get on your computer, go to the website, and go down to YouTube, and you can watch the whole meeting. And she said, stop, I don't have a computer. So I thought, this is the person that I've been trying to figure out, how do we contact those people? So I've been brainstorming, and I don't have an answer, but we need to remember those people who don't have computers. How do we contact them? How do we let them know what's going on? She just gets people who call her and say, did you know that this is going on? So keep that in the back of your mind. We could send her a stick, but she doesn't have a computer to put it into, you know, if she doesn't have internet. Randy, any thoughts?
Actually, two. Number one is the public library has public computers available at the library.
If she can work it, but yeah.
Okay. And, well, they'll give instruction if somebody goes there. The other thing is we do have a couple of retired laptops that you folks had previously that, even though they can't run Windows 10, they can access YouTube. So we could have one here at the office for public use, just like we do the bill pay. Could be set right out there on the counter, connected, that, you know.
Okay, we can just give them directions and get her step through it. And
We could even just leave it open to YouTube, you know, just leave YouTube open to the township listing. So, you know, a couple of things that we could do.
Or she could buy one of the computers too, but I mean, that still means she's got to operate it and get the internet
Yeah,
connection.
she would have to upgrade it to Windows 10, and these are,
A little more involved.
yeah.
Okay.
But we could have one on the counter here that could be public access to look at the meetings on YouTube.
Yeah,
Sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
okay, I've got her number, so I'll call her back.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Those are the people we have to really think about, 'cause how do we get a hold of them other than in the utility bills?
it's difficult. I mean, it really is. I mean, we can very easily load them onto a jump drive and, give them a jump drive, but then they have to have something to plug the jump drive into to watch it. And if they don't have a smartphone, if they have a smartphone, we can send it to them on a smartphone. Or they could just access it on a smartphone on YouTube. But short of that, there's not a whole lot of ways that we can reach them.
Unless they come in, I don't know what her position is, but.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that helps.
I think if they're at Lost Creek, I believe Lost Creek also has computer access in their
I think she's
their
still
building.
home. She was talking about losing her husband, but
Ah.
I can find out.
And they have one in the conference center at Lost Creek, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can at least tell her how to find it if it's a generic.
Well, worst case
computer.
here. I mean,
Yeah.
worst case here at the hall.
Okay. We do need to set up a special meeting for the interview for January 3rd. I checked the minutes and I checked with the clerk. We have not done that yet.
We did at the
I
last
could not
meeting.
find a motion, and he said, do it tonight. So,
You talked about the 3rd at 3 o'clock, is what
Right.
you talked about at the last meeting. I don't
He-
recall
he
if you
wasn't
did a
aware.
motion or not.
yeah, there was nothing in the minutes, so just to be safe,
Must have been a consensus, and I mean, we all,
yeah.
I know we all said, yeah,
Yeah,
let's
we
just
talked
do it
about it.
There were
then.
3 dates.
Yeah, 3 dates,
Three dates that you
In
folks
December.
settled on the 3rd,
yeah.
but I don't know if there was ever a motion.
He wasn't sure either. So we need a motion to have a special meeting, January 3rd at 3 o'clock.
So moved. Second.
We also said that we were going to, before we finish that, in case it has to be amended, to discuss the manager's contract that we would be presenting to the candidate. Do you want to, we passed that on, remember, we didn't talk about it at the last interviews? We said we were going to save it for another day. Do you want to add that to that agenda or have another special meeting? Because before we had 3 candidates we interviewed, so the day went kind of long. And we decided that we weren't going to talk about the contract at that meeting. We were going to put it off, so we didn't do anything with it. I sent you a blank form, relatively blank. So we still need to discuss it and decide what you want to do with it. So we can add it as a second agenda item to this meeting. Is that all right?
Meeting on the 3rd of January?
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why would we present our 4th candidate for manager's contract?
We're not. We need to just talk about the contract. So when the candidate leaves, we can,
You're talking about meeting before 3 o'clock.
whatever. That's all up to us. But we need to have something, if this is the candidate we're gonna choose, or whatever we do next, if we go out and find somebody else, we need a contract. So I was just trying to save us having a lot of different meetings.
I guess I'd be more in favor just to have it as an agenda item at the next board meeting.
Okay,
Manager's contract.
we can do that too. That'd be right after, because he would meet us on the 3rd, and this would be the 7th. So add it to the 7th agenda?
That would be my opinion.
Does that sound all right with you guys? Okay. All right, let me add that to the future agenda.
I don't really think there's gonna be a lot that we have to change or
It
anything.
might not be, but we still need something we can work with. Okay, yeah, we can talk about it then.
We are talking about that tonight, aren't we?
The manager's contract?
On the agenda?
That's why. And I think it was supposed to be on here, and it wasn't on my list. I didn't know if it was on Randy's or not. So we'll add it to the 7th. Okay. That's enough housekeeping. All right, then we can, oh, no, we didn't. Thank you. Thank you.
So do you want me to read it?
Sure, that'd be
Okay,
great.
The motion is to hold a special meeting January 3rd, 2020 at 3 PM.
For-
To interview supervisor candidate,
Correct. No, manager candidate.
manager candidate. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll read it again.
Okay.
The motion is to hold a special meeting January 3rd, 2020 at 3 p.m. to interview manager candidate.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next up is 8A, committee updates. The first thing says approve the 2020 committee appointments. Thinking they were part of the packet. They didn't.
Yep, they're in there. It's 8A1. It's a single page, 8, marked 8A1.
Oh, no, that's not.
Here.
Yeah, that's not it. I gave her a memo.
Oh.
No wonder. I thought this was just for information. I had a memo requesting. Because there's an actual list of all of the candidates. Maybe I didn't print it.
My button is pushed.
Okay. You can talk then while I look. How's that?
Okay, all right, we've all had, at least on 2 occasions, the proposals from our supervisor, and the appointments are made by the supervisor and approved by the board. I found no objection to any of them. There's one vacant, one that needs to be filled beyond that, but I move to concur with the recommendations of the supervisor for the current vacancies on the boards. That's,
I was going to try our new printer, but it says it's offline. Let me just read them.
You want to print to the one in there and I'll go get it?
Yeah, you could do that, okay.
Yeah.
This one does say ready.
Yeah, it's telling me in here it's offline, though. I'll send it to 650.
All right.
Randy?
is this what she's looking for? Is this
No,
what-
no, no.
Is there a new one since then?
Yeah, Randy's gonna go get it. I'm printing it. This is what was it's a memo to you listing everybody, so I'll read it in the meantime, just so the public knows. Planning Commission, Jim Johnson will renew until 12/31/22. The Rec Committee, we have Michael Springer and Connor Loftus until 12/31/22. Road Committee, Mike Springer, renew until 12/31/22. DDA, Rob Sved, renew until 12/31/23, as well as Dylan Klein and Andrew Rickauer. Board of Review, Carl Kaida, Mickey Truscott, and Greg Place as an alternate, all renewing to 12/31/21. Zoning Board of Appeals, Jim Johnson, the Planning Commission rep, and William Truscott and James Becker as the alternate until 12/31/22. So we also have an opening on the Planning Commission for a term ending 12/31/22, and the Road Committee from 12/31/21, Events Committee, just to complete a term, thank you, for right now. And the Iron Ore Rec Authority, we need an alternate for a term ending 3/31/21. And it says on the bottom that Board of Review candidate Kelly Hillier-Genshaw was unconfirmed for renewal. She did confirm that with me on Monday. So she will take that Board of Review position to 12/31/21. So as of right now, we only have the one Planning Commission seat that will be open after the first of the year. So we do have a motion and support. Now that you've seen the documentation, are you still okay with that motion?
I don't see any difference between I don't see any variation
Shouldn't be, yeah.
from the information that we had. Your latest communication
Thanks, Randy.
does it in detail, but the point is that there's no variation. So the motion stands as made. That
Was there a second?
No.
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any questions? Sorry about that confusion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for accepting those. So everyone is pretty much back in their same spots. Thank you for working with the township and helping us and giving up of your free time. We do really, really appreciate that. Anybody that wants to get involved with the events committee too, there's always something going on. And even if you don't want to do the whole committee stuff, maybe you just want to work on Christmas, or you just want to work on the car show, that's okay too. Just come on in, get involved, and it's fun.
Yep, the committee meets generally at 11:30, usually on a Wednesday, 11:30 in the morning, not in the evening. And, certainly welcome anybody who's interested in any of the events that we work on, or just to bring new ideas.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. Dave, what do you have for the other committees?
Yeah, there's not a lot, just to make sure everybody understands what's going on this month. Is for the Planning Commission, the December 11th commission meeting was canceled. That makes the next scheduled commission meeting is January the 8th, 2020. And I would like to take an opportunity, in as much as Commissioner Kaczmarski's term ends the end of this year, to thank her for her contribution and volunteering in the Planning Commission. And the road committee, December 3rd road committee meeting was reported at the last board meeting. Our next scheduled road committee meeting is January 7th. And the rec committee for tonight that precedes this meeting was canceled. And the next scheduled road committee or rec committee meeting is for January 21st, so everything's next year.
Okay. Any questions for Dave? Thanks for that. All right, included in tonight's agenda, we have draft committee reports from Solid Waste Management, regular meetings and their agenda, Recreation Authority, and Utility Review Committee minutes. So 9A then, consider Public Works reorganization costs. We did get an updated memo, I believe, in your mailboxes again today, for a little bit of an adjustment, John was saying, to their original proposal on the schedule, and the financial part of it is there. John, you want to enlighten us?
Sure. So the original discussion was to extend the hours of service at the end of the workday beyond the current 6:30 schedule. And of course, the idea also was to redistribute the employees back to 5 8-hour shifts as opposed to 4 10-hour shifts, because it occasionally left us shorthanded on Mondays and Fridays specifically. After looking at the overtime, it doesn't appear to cause much of a difference whether you add an extra hour at the beginning of the shift versus the end. And I think there's other benefits to adding an hour in the morning regarding how overtime is paid out, that kind of thing. So the recommendation is to switch to this 6 to 6:30 shift according to the new schedule I provided you. And you can see in the memo the difference is between 14.3 and 16 hours per half-hour increment if it were a straight line relationship, and I did not break it down to half-hour increments. I was looking at the overtime work between 6:30 and 8 p.m. versus 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., which is the start of the workday currently at 7. So the budget and fee schedule were approved to include the addition of the one new employee. That would be the most significant cost of this whole process. I did include the costs in the spreadsheet, And it's presented two different ways. The number at the top, that 20,903 per utility, that would be for each, the water and wastewater. That's a I don't know about conservative number, because we're estimating what kind of overtime cost savings we're going to recognize, and we don't really know until we go down this road what savings we're actually going to see. So if we had this schedule in place in 2018, that would have been the cost savings. And it's not a lot, but it does help provide coverage in an area where we don't currently have it. So at the bottom, that's what the actual breakdown is. If you take the unknown out, it's that $22,318 less a $366 difference in benefits. So if you threw the overtime in, you would come to that same number of 20,903. And either way, the 22,318 is the most conservative number, the highest cost that we would anticipate from what we're proposing here. And that number is reflected in the budget that was approved at the last meeting.
John, go ahead.
We've all had notice of this for some time. We've got the detailed information on it. I move to authorize the department restructuring as approved in the 2020 budget and fee schedule, and according to the attached staffing levels and service hours that we've received.
Okay, motion and support. Do you have anything else to add, John?
No, I think this is a good move. We've waited a long time for this kind of thing, and I think we're on the trail of improvement.
Dave?
Yeah, just a clarification, John, if you would. You made a bunch of 6 to 6:30 and all that in the morning. Bottom line is the shifts are gonna start at 6
That is correct. The first shift would start at 6.
and end at 6:30.
The second shift would end at 6:30. So 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. with a half-hour lunch, and then 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. with a half hour.
No, from your explanation, I thought we were changing that starting time. So that's all I need.
Yeah, the current starting time is 7 a.m., so we're starting 1 hour earlier.
Yep.
Ernie?
Just one quick, what's the time frame for the new employee to come aboard?
I defer to the manager.
That's what I was gonna hit. Basically, if the board approves this action, you take the vote to approve it, basically that would start our process of the posting and bidding process for the newly configured crew leader position. Then there'll be some pecking order moving down, and then ultimately to acquire the new. So we're probably looking at a 30 to 60 day process by the time it's all finished.
Another question is, if it's taking that long, how are you going to manipulate the schedule when you're short one person for 30 to 60 days?
We're technically short 2 according to the plan,
Right now.
because we have 1 vacancy already
Right.
due to the retirement earlier this year. So what we want to do is align the schedule with the pay period. So the first day of the first pay period that makes sense in January is when we would initiate the new schedule.
It'd be the second pay period in January. And then that gives us the time. Each of those postings have to be up for 10 days, and it's kind of a cascading, because we're gonna end up with 3 separate postings, and then finally would add 1 additional position.
So you'll still
With-
be working short until that time.
Correct. With the proposed schedule, we would have 1 new employee on each shift, so both shifts would be shorthanded until we get the new staff on.
And luckily, it's at a time of the year when we're not really busy unless we have a break.
So what happens with weekends? Nobody's really talked about that too much. Are you okay enough that you don't have to? Obviously, you're not including them.
The weekends would still be on the regular call schedule.
Okay, nothing's altered there.
Nope.
Same as after hours.
After 7.
Correct.
10 or 6:30, okay. Dave?
Yeah, just clarification, you say we're gonna be working short, we're working short now, aren't
We are.
That is correct.
Okay, so really it's gonna be the same.
Same as we're doing now, just different hours.
Okay.
Because right now, you've got the 10-hour shifts with an hour for lunch, so we're gonna be going half hour for lunch on the 8-hour shifts.
You make it sound like we're gonna be experiencing a new shortfall here. in the first
No.
year.
We won't be increasing the shortfall, we'll actually be decreasing the shortfall. And hopefully eliminating it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We have a motion and support.
So I have as the motion to approve public works reorganization costs. And if you want more stuff added,
You can take it right off here.
Right off the sheet.
Yeah, here we go. I'll get that for you.
what sheet?
She didn't get one of
In your
those.
packet.
Randy's got your packet.
Do we have a second for it?
Yes,
We did.
As long as I get the sheet at some
Dave
point,
did.
I'm good.
That's why we created this
Hey.
sheet. So you wouldn't even have to worry.
That helps.
Okay, so now I'll read it.
Okay.
To authorize a department restructuring as approved in the 2020 budget and fee schedule and according to the attached staffing levels and service hours.
The clerk has an excellent memory, and I appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Because that was an insert. All right, next is to consider the 2020 Sheriff's Services Contract. Got a letter from our chief on the contract. Other than just a little bit of an increase for their contract wages, everything is the same. Randy, did you want to add anything?
It is the same agreement as was in place for 2019, and as you mentioned, the only difference is on their side, on the county side, there's a $1.19 per hour increase in their labor agreement that's being passed along.
Dave?
Yeah, I move to approve the 2020 renewal of the law enforcement contract with the sheriff's department as budgeted.
Support?
Motion and support. Ernie?
Just one question. Do we indicate that the supervisor signs it?
Generally, yes. And we will likely be retiring the current patrol vehicle sometime early in 2020, which means we'll be selling the Impala that we currently have in stock and then acquiring the Charger that's being replaced.
Go ahead, you're still up.
I'm still up. I just want to make sure in the minutes it shows that the supervisor will be signing it.
Yes.
Dan?
In regards to the vehicle, police vehicle, was there some damage done to it?
I'm not sure what the extent was. There was an indication that there might have been a head gasket issue, but the car is back on the road, so, yeah, I saw
I
it,
just heard
saw it
that-
earlier today.
I heard there was some problem with it, and I wasn't sure what it was. and-
Yeah, it was on a response, it was a joint response between the sheriff's department and the fire department on transporting a patient, and there was an observation of an unusual amount of vapor, let's
Okay.
put it that way, coming from a patrol vehicle en route to the hospital. And it's back in service, so
Good.
we had basically what they do is if our car is out of service, they supplement with one of the other patrol cars for our patrol activity, but I saw it on the road today, so
Perfect.
I think it was a head gasket.
Okay, Dave?
Just that maintenance of that vehicle falls to sheriff's department.
That does, yes. That's not routine maintenance, we just do the routine.
Okay. Anything else? Do you want to read it again?
To approve the 2020 renewal of the law enforcement contract with the sheriff's department as budgeted and for the supervisor to sign the contract.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And remember, this is additional police coverage that we provide.
That's correct.
All right, Randy, you're up on consider Windows 10 conversion. You've alluded to it a little bit.
Yeah, what you have before you is a surprise proposal. Basically, we became aware in October that Windows 7, which is our current operating system for all of our desktop computers and laptops, with the exception of the board's new laptops and tablets already have Windows 10 on them. So Windows 7 is, as of January 1st, is no longer going to be supported, and we've been having some issues with it now since it's being phased out. So we have to replace 6 of our computers, desktop computers, and 4 of the fire department's desktop computers because they're too old to run Windows 10. They won't run it. So what you have before you tonight is the authorization to acquire those 10 desktops or 10 desktop computers outfit with Windows 10 for the 14175 and change cost, and is something that we have to do. Windows 7 will no longer be supported as of January 1st. The computers have been ordered. I went ahead and ordered those. They're received at the warehouse, and they're being loaded with Windows 10 currently. We may have them yet this week.
Any questions,
This
John?
is kind of an after-the-fact thing.
Move to approve replacement of the 10 desktop computers and to convert from Windows 7 to Windows 10, costing $14,175.
Support?
Any more questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. I don't think that's an outrageous price for 10 units to have us brought up to speed, so it has to be done.
They're getting errors and zaps and everything all day long, and it's kind of scary. You have to do something, you know.
What's happening right now, as we're getting closer to January, at first it was very sporadic, but now it's almost constant, is your screen will freeze and you'll get a flash that says you have a problem with Windows 7, and you cannot get it off your screen unless you reboot. So it's causing some significant issues for those of us that have old computers. Just to give you an idea, the ones that are being replaced came here when we occupied this building 6 years ago. So it was kind of comical to have 906 come in and check the computers. And they haven't seen old ones like that for a while. So anyway, it'll be welcome. But we did have, over the weekend, we don't know what happened, but over the weekend we did have some of our systems lost memory and had to be rebooted yesterday. So as far as we know, there was no power surge, there was no strange issues. Just for whatever reason, they lost memory, so they just had to be restored this morning.
It's the kind of thing that happens with age.
There are quite a few things that happen with age, but
Losing memory is one of them.
Thanks,
losing
John.
memory is one of them. That's correct.
We needed
What
that.
did you say? Ernie, go ahead.
Is there any training for staff when we move to the 10?
Yeah, 906 will do that same as they did with you folks. They'll come in and do a group upgrade and primer on the changes from 7 to 10.
So Public Works doesn't have any computers that they have?
Public Works did have, with the transition of John, he got a new computer, and the one over at Public Works was also upgraded at that time. So they've gone through the upgrade and are on Windows 10.
Any idea when it'll be complete?
Should be this week.
This week?
Yeah, when I talked to them yesterday morning, Friday, they had received them in the warehouse, and yesterday morning they were loading them with Windows 10. So we should have them here sometime yet this week. It's going to be a pretty easy unplug, plug-in type thing, and do a quick update on Windows 10.
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Got your computers. 9D, consider snow removal equipment. Falls to you again, Randy.
You had a proposal in front of you, and I think what we're probably going to do at this point is there's been a fair amount of discussion between myself and Trustee Wiegand and a couple of others, including building and ground staff. There is some concern that the unit that we were looking at here may not be sufficient for one of the main functions that we have, and that is clearing the pedestrian pathways where the residences along have plowed their driveways and have created mounds on the pathway. It's one of the issues we have with the John Deere is it's not heavy enough to break through those kinds of berms. So we may be looking at a slightly heavier version, and I may want to try and hold this over till your first meeting in January. Give us a chance to take a look at some other equipment, working with Trustee Wiegand and a couple of others, and maybe try a couple of them out first before we bring it back to you at your January meeting.
Dave?
Yeah, I talked to the manager about this earlier, and it's not so much the tractor as it is the snow blower that's
Blower.
attached to it. Is not designed for removing the windrow that the snow plows, the county trucks leave along the edge because it all freezes together. That's the problem we've got with the snow blower on the John Deere. And this one on the Kubota, while it is bigger, it's intended for the same purpose. And I think there's better options out there that we could step up to that's going to last a little bit longer. The last thing we want to do is go out and spend $35,000 and in 2 years have things falling off it again like it is on a John Deere. I took a quick look today, and there are actually snow blowers out there that are designed for the front of a tractor or the front of a skid steer or the front of a front end loader that are designed to break the ice up and grind it up, and which that's the biggest. There's some just shy of 2 miles worth of that pathway that has that problem. And I just for one think we'd be better off to study the problem a little more and come up with a better solution, so that whatever we buy, we're not buying something that we're going to start tearing apart.
Well, and even based on last night's meeting, there's going to be more trails or more walkways if we can
Or
help it.
pathways.
Pathways,
I've
sidewalks, whatever you want to call it.
talked to a couple operators in the township that are friends of mine that operate this equipment, and their answer to both of them was no, they would not go out and do that with their snow blower because they know what had happened to it. If they're moving that stuff off the shoulder where the county plows it up, they take a front end loader and move it. So we need to look at a better option for a snow blower.
We may be looking now at something that could do more than building and grounds. This is what we were looking at, maybe get into some of the utility use as well, public works. So maybe a little heavier piece of equipment, a little higher cost.
Well,
We're proposing to fund this out of the Metro Fund, which is basically not a general fund, it's a separate authority. It's intended basically to provide local governments revenues to maintain rights-of-way, utility rights-of-way, and the fire department does that basically. So this would be something we would be using, with the fire department and with public works to acquire, to address those kinds of issues.
Well, the way this was priced out, it was strictly the tractor with a snow blower attached to it.
Correct.
There was no front end loader or anything else, so the tractor, the equipment had no more utility when there was no snow on the ground.
Right.
I think you might even have to double the price, but at that, you're getting a piece of equipment that, whether it be a small front end loader or a skid steer or something like that, that you can attach a snow blower to the front of it in the wintertime when you need it, then you're getting a utility vehicle that you can use all year round. It just adds to what Public Works has got over there with the backhoe. You could even, they have snow blowing. I looked for a very short period of time today, about 30 minutes online, and you can even find a snow blowers that the backhoe and Public Works would hook up to. And it operates on its own motor. That would do, it's meant for what we're asking it to do. So there's better options out there. I would just hope the board would just move it back to the manager and have them do some more study on it.
So we'll come back to you at hopefully your first meeting in January.
So the request is for $35,000. We have a balance of $60,000 in the Metro Fund, so
Correct.
anything we went over 60, then would just come out of the general fund.
It would have to come out of fund balance, yes. But again, look at something a little heavier that can do more things. especially since we're adding additional trails.
I don't know which of you was first. I think you were, Ernie?
After I got it, I called an individual I know that works for the city in the repair and that, and asked him what they have over there. They have two items, two of them that he would recommend, the trackless, and there's another one, I didn't get that down. They're both out of Canada.
Yep.
But the cost factor is $140,000.
Right, and they're specifically for snow removal and no other utility. Yeah.
And he says made an offer, go over and take a look anytime you want as to what they have, so you can see what they have and what they use and that, so that's out there and that, so. The only problem I see is that by doing this, we don't have anyone to do the maintenance, and that's another question you have to look at overall.
Right.
And make sure it's a ticklet, which means it turns itself when you go on the corners. It actually physically turns and that, rather the whole equipment turns. A ticklet, that's what it amounts to.
Yep.
Things like this. That's all I have.
Okay. Nothing, John? Change your mind? Okay. We did get an email, the board got an email, and Randy, it didn't say anything about reading it, but it's got some good information too about
Similar.
recommendations and making sure that the equipment's gonna fit the job,
Right.
rather than buying something and in 2 years it's gotta go and we gotta get something else.
It was a good email.
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense.
Good information.
It does. You know, the issue that we have with some of what was suggested in the email is utilizing, pickup trucks and plows is tough on equipment, and it really ends up costing you a lot more in the long run, rather than, as Trustee Wiegand suggested, a heavier commercial type of vehicle, type of equipment to serve that specific purpose. Makes more sense in the long run. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move this to the January, you think, the first?
I think it's the 7th, I think, isn't it? The first meeting in
Meeting?
January, we'll target that one.
Yep.
Okay. All right, got that. Consider, 9E is consider the 2019 to 21 financial audit proposals.
What you have before you is a recommendation. As you know, we retain external auditors to do our financial audits, and we do those on a 3-year contract. So the auditors come in the first year, get familiar with our operation, second year, third year, then do the financial audits for us. We went out on bids. We do this every 3 years. We sent out 7 RFPs to 7 different companies asking them for a proposal. We received 2 back. One of those came from our current auditor, and the other came from another local auditor firm. Fairly sizable difference in the proposed cost, and we are recommending to remain with our current auditors, Gaybridge and Company, out of Grand Rapids, for the cumulative total over the 3 years, $28,280.
John?
Move to concur with the recommendation of the manager and approve the proposal of Gibbridge and Company for the 2019 to 2021 audit.
And have the clerk sign.
Pass it.
Got it.
And that would be to have the
I
clerk
got it,
sign
I
that.
got it. For the clerk to sign?
Clerk can sign off
The
on that.
amount?
Total of 28,800, or 280, I'm sorry, 28,280.
Support.
Okay. Any other questions? Dan supported. Did he have, no. Good, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider township offices generator. We
On a
got
roll.
this.
Generator is installed, it was test run, worked perfectly, and now it's time to pay for it.
Hmm. Do we have to?
It would be appreciated.
I don't want to disconnect it. Go ahead, Dave.
Motion to fund the installation of emergency power for the township offices and community room and IT service funded by transfers to capital expenditures from the professional services account of contracted services and engineer totaling $32,495.
Support.
Motion and support. Any comments?
I'd like to ask Randy how everything went. Flawless?
Didn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
There was about a 2-second flicker on the lights, and then everything was fine. But none of the computers went down, phone system didn't go down. So we have very short-term, non-interruptible power to each of the units, but the switchover happened flawlessly. This particular unit, basically, on shutdown, it runs for 5 minutes to cool itself down before it shuts down, so it continues to run for 5 minutes after the power comes back on. But it is set to automatically run itself and do a self-check on Monday mornings at 6 o'clock.
Excellent.
How long does that take?
5 minutes.
Ernie, go ahead.
The only kind, I think part of it has been answered that it has been set up so it automatically switches over and the power goes off here when that kicks in.
Correct.
And there's only, what, less than a minute?
2 to 3 seconds. I mean, it was just instantaneous. Like I said, there was a couple of little flicks on the light. They didn't go off, it just kind of fluttered a little bit and it was over. That was it. So it's an automatic switch, on and off.
I
Finally.
had to work with the electrical in the building to get this all taken care of.
Yep, it's 48 kilowatt. It covers all of the system's maximum demand.
Been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Glad it's here.
And so this was a budgeted item, and just so the public knows, this
Mhm.
wasn't, a freaky thing we had to do. And this is gonna help with not only keeping the power going in the office when the power goes out, they can keep their computers running, we don't have to send them home because there's nothing to do. We've got elections covered in case there's power outages, fire
Fire
department's
department
covered.
access to the servers,
So this
and
is-
if need be, can be an emergency shelter.
So
short term.
This is good stuff we're doing for the public. Anything else?
And yeah, you're right, it's been budgeted over 2 years.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider roundabout lighting. We're paying lots of bills tonight.
We are. Projects are being completed. As you'll recall, with the roundabout projects, the Brickyard and the Target Walmart roundabout, our obligation was to fund the lighting for those projects and to install the irrigation for those projects. So you have before you the costs from the Road Commission. It washed through there. The grants came through the Road Commission for that project. So it's time to pay again. So asking you to authorize $28,609.31 transferred from the DDA. It comes out of the, remember we levied the 1 mil for 1 year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now for the study. This is the remainder of that millage levy.
Okay, John?
This board, or well, actually a previous board even, made a commitment to do this. We have no choice. And not that we really want one, I think we're welcoming what's in place. I'll authorize to transfer $28,609.31 from the DDA fund balance to the Township Road Improvement Fund for roundabout lighting.
Do we need that to include the transfer from the actual budgeting from the 30,000?
It was in your budget amendment earlier this evening.
We don't need to do,
Oh. It's already done.
Support.
all right, motion and support. Any questions? Ernie?
Just one comment from following John. When they made their presentation about the roundabouts, there was no mention about lighting or anything else that would be the responsibility for the
Right.
town.
Yeah, it was.
This is a cost that we've had to assume unknown to us at the time.
Right. It was a surprise announcement that the federal funding for the roundabouts, the federal highway funding, would not cover lighting So it was
What?
great.
John?
Well, but before they started, they came in with, they wanted a commitment
Yeah.
from this board, or from the board of the township, to go ahead and pay for it.
Right.
What our treasurer is saying is absolutely true,
Mhm.
except that before they started construction, they asked for a total commitment.
Oh, yeah.
And it was quid pro quo.
Kind of, sort of.
You don't get the roundabout if you don't make the commitment.
Yeah.
Did we vote on that? No, I didn't
Not
think
yet.
so. Some of these discussions get too long. Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 9H is consider approval of the 2020 township meeting schedule. That falls to the clerk. He's just sloughing off.
What's the clerk gonna say?
I don't know, just that it was presented, I guess, and,
The deputy clerk will say it's been presented to the board members.
okay. There are a few adjustments, August 5th, November 4th for the board because of elections.
Elections. Mhm.
And then the roads committee changed theirs to a Wednesday, so both of those are Wednesdays also. Ernie?
I move to approve the 2020 township meeting schedule as presented.
Support?
Motion and support, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're stuck with those. Wow. Phew. Any public comment? No public comment. All right, any announcements for anybody? Nothing? Okay. Managers report.
Relatively brief. Our holiday hours, again, we've talked about this the last two meetings. For Christmas, we'll be closed. The office will be closed Tuesday, December 24th, and Wednesday, December 25th. And on New Year's Day, Wednesday, January 1st, the township offices will also be closed. But on those dates, just like at any time, if there's any kind of an emergency needing Public Works assistance, just call the office number 228-6220, follow the prompts. We do have staff that are on call for all of those off hours. A new issue came up. We've talked about, the safety of being out in the township during hunting seasons. And particularly, we talked about the Wellfield area and the wild areas of the township. Well, we had an issue that came up right here in Trowbridge, where apparently there was, during the second bow and arrow hunting season, deer taken in Trowbridge by a crossbow. We had a resident contact. Long story short, it was legal under the DNR's regulations because, as you'll recall, a safety zone is within 450 feet of an occupied dwelling or a farm building. And there are areas in Trowbridge where there is more than 450 feet distance between homes and other facilities, a couple of them only. So the question to the board is, would you like to have the Planning Commission consider a police ordinance that would prohibit hunting of any sort within a residentially zoned area, or something such as that? It's not common, it hasn't happened a lot, but for those of you who are not involved in hunting or in any of the shooting sports, a modern crossbow is not what you're thinking of. A modern crossbow can easily go 150, 200 yards, which is way more than 450 feet.
Don't all of you turn your buttons at the same time? Okay, I think Dave, you were first.
Just to tag on to that, you can also, if you have a written agreement between, with an adjacent homeowner.
Property owner?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You don't have to be with more than 450 feet away from him.
Correct.
So you get a whole city block together with written agreements, and you could hunt the whole block. So I think it'd be a worthwhile thing. I don't think we need that kind of stuff going on in any place where we've got residential setting.
So I would suggest that possibly you move this to the planning commission for consideration.
Ernie?
What I had when I read this, I read that I'd like to see a map of the area that could be addressed, so we know what we're talking about in that too. I know all of Trowbridge and that too,
Well,
but
actually, you know, one of the bigger areas, well, there are two really large areas. One is right here behind us,
I understand that.
and then the other is just north of Werner, where there's about an 8-acre open area along the Badger Creek.
Well, and there's,
Yes, yeah.
and there's a bit more west of here.
Oh, quite a bit more. Bishop
a bit
Woods,
more.
Huron Woods, Oak Hills, all of those areas conceivably could be impacted.
I
Quite
know
frankly,
from-
nobody really thought about it until this incident occurred.
I know between Fair Avenue and Warner, where I live, you start going that way, you got quite a few acres in there that's.
There are.
That's free. So I'd like to see a map, and going to the planning commission is great. I think, let them take a look at it.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I think when you look at,
Should have done
sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I know down here in the end again, I gotta start, where's that prod? Oh, cattle prod. I concur with everybody. As a hunter myself, I always thought this was illegal to hunt in a residential area. Cripes, I could shoot deer out my back window. My neighbors probably wouldn't care if I asked them, but I concur. I think that is wrong, and I like Ernie's idea about having a map so we can define the actual area, encompass all of Trowbridge Park and surrounding areas. And if there is, and like you're saying, your area and off of Werner Street there by Badger Creek is wide open. People, it is private, but people could easily go in there and hunt if that, I didn't think it was legal to do, because it's in a residential area. No, I strongly support it.
I never thought about it until this issue came up, and I went on Google Earth and I started measuring some of the distances on Google Earth, and there are quite a few where it could technically be legal.
I can come shoot it.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm good.
Oh. After all that, get me in trouble.
Do we have to, by consensus, move it to the planning commission?
Do we need a motion? Or
I don't
just-
think you need a
Depends if you're
motion.
going by policy governance or not, but yeah, you're supposed to have a motion.
Let's do it.
Yes.
How do I put this?
I guess an appropriate motion would be to ask the planning commission to review the potential hunting activity within residential areas of Trowbridge, of the township.
Boundaries.
It's wide open that way too. Who seconded?
I will.
Made the motion.
Potential- Ernie.
Tough night, huh?
That's all that I had in the manager's report, other than to have happy
We have a vote
holidays,
on it.
because we won't meet again until January, but you need to vote.
Yeah. So the motion's to ask the planning commission to review the potential hunting rules, regulations? What did you say?
Area?
Activity
Activity,
within the residential areas of the township.
or just within the whole township?
No?
Nah, not the whole township, the
No, it can't be the
residential
whole
areas.
township.
Within
Yeah.
residential areas of the township. Okay,
You good?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Watch the video.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can hit rewind. Anything else then?
Vote.
All in
That's it.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, how do you feel about reviewing all our motions,
Okay.
Deputy Clerk?
Well, we'll try this and you guys will help me. So
Sounds good.
I'm gonna go backwards.
Either way. that's
Okay,
fine.
so the motion is to ask the planning commission to review the potential hunting activity within the residential areas of the township. Then to approve the 2020 township meeting schedule. To authorize the transfer of $28,609.31 from the DDA fund balance to the township road improvement fund for the roundabout lighting. to fund the installation of emergency power for the township offices, community room, and IT service, fund it by transfer to capital expenditures from the professional services account of contracted services and engineer totaling $32,495 to
Or 9:45.
$495. To approve the proposal of Gaybridge and Company for 2019 through 2021, not to exceed annual audits as follows: 2019 at $9,280, 2020 at $9,400, and 2021, that should be, at $9,600, correct? To approve the replacement of 10 desktop computers and to convert from Windows 7 to Windows 10 costing $14,175.78. To approve the 2020 renewal of the law enforcement contract with the Sheriff Department as budgeted and for the supervisor to sign the contract. To authorize the department restructuring as approved in the 2020 budget and fee schedule and according to the attached staffing levels and service hours.
Public Works.
Public Works.
Public Works. Okay. And then, a motion to approve the consent agenda. A motion to hold a special meeting January 3rd, 2020 at 3 p.m. to interview a manager candidate. A motion to approve Public Works reorganization costs. I already did that one. Okay. And then a motion to concur with the supervisor on the committee appointments. Attachment 8A-1. I think that is
Regular
it.
agenda, I think.
Just
The only other one.
Okay.
You did the consent.
Okay, I did, and then a motion to approve the agenda.
Perfect. Well done.
That's emotions.
Yeah, Randy.
Well, he planned that, didn't he? He wasn't
Yeah.
here earning money tonight.
Where is he?
Okay, then, so future agenda items, we've got the manager's contract for discussion on the 7th and whatever big piece of equipment. I just wrote down Kubota so I wouldn't forget whatever information we get from the manager. Go ahead, Randy.
And I also will be having at the January 7th meeting will be power plan insurance renewal.
Anything else anybody's seeing that we need to talk about? I guess I will probably put on there to schedule a strategic planning meeting or work session or something. We'll talk about it at that meeting and figure out what we want to do going forward in 2020. So I'll add that on. Probably a work session. Okay, any board member comment? Anything anybody wants to share? Okay, then we will go into closed session if you want to read that, Deputy.
Okay, to enter into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268, parentheses H, to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. But note, a board is not permitted to go into closed session to discuss an attorney's oral opinion as opposed to a written legal memorandum, which includes a written opinion subject to the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, we need motion and roll call.
So moved.
Or Dave and Ernie, pardon.
Aye. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Lisa. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote.
Yes.